Hi, welcome back to Backyard Science. My name is Zoe with the Jackson Bottom Wetland Preserve, and this week we're talking about gardening. So you've already learned a little bit about how to make containers out of household items and how to compost. Today we're going to look at taking scraps from your kitchen, like vegetables and fruits, and planting them. So here's some scraps I have today that I want to use. I have some onions that have started to sprout. These were actually both part of one onion bulb, and I separated them out. You can see they are starting to get a little bit rotting, so it'll be quite the experiment to see if we can get them to produce more onions. We also have some lettuce. I have just some straight pieces of lettuce, as well as a head of lettuce with the roots still intact. And then I have some heads of carrots. So I just chopped the heads off of them before using them, and we're going to show you how you can replant them. Okay, so we're going to start with the carrots, and you're just going to need a container with a very small amount of water. Pretty much you don't want to completely submerge your carrots, but you want to make sure the bottoms are covered. So I'm going to stick my carrot heads into the water just like this, and that's all you have to do for them. We're just going to set them on a windowsill where they can get plenty of sunlight, and within a few days you should start to see some sprouting from the heads, and eventually they will start forming roots as well, and that's when you can put them in the ground if you have any soil. If not, you can just harvest the sprouts that are coming out, and that is a lot like parsley, so you can use it as a garnish. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the windowsill. Okay, so I took my living lettuce. This is butter lettuce that comes with the roots still attached. I trimmed it a bit, and I just stuck it in some water in a mason jar, and we're going to put it on the windowsill for a bit and see if we can get those roots a little bit stronger before we transition them to some soil. So what do we do with all these extra scraps after putting my lettuce with the root on the windowsill? Well, we don't want to throw it away. There's many things we can do. There's some of these leaves are still perfectly good to eat, so you can use this in a salad. But if you have extras that you're not going to eat, you can compost them. And you learned a little bit about composting recently, so this would be a great thing to add to your compost. I also have pet rats, and they love to eat these as well, so we can share with our pets, so we're not wasting anything. So let's try to plant our red onion that is sprouted. We did cut off the part that was rotten. You definitely want to make sure you cut off those parts first. We're not sure if this is going to work, but we're going to try. So you want to find some soil, and you don't want to cover the entire thing. You want to leave the sprouted part exposed so it can get some sunlight. And you want to try to clear out any weeds that are next to it, because that can affect the growth. And then we'll water it and see what happens. So here's a great example of something that a lot of people would just throw away, but you can either compost it or you can replant it. So here's a small potato. It's in my petite medley of potatoes, and you can see that it's already started sprouting in multiple places, and that means that it is looking for light to regrow. And with a small potato like this, we can just replant it in soil. If it's a bit larger, you do want to separate them out into quarters or something. But yeah, let's go ahead and plant this guy. Okay, so here I have my sprouted small potato. I'm going to plant it in a pretty large pot that I have in the backyard. Potatoes do like to have a lot of space. They also like a lot of sun, so hopefully we can get some sun on this guy soon. I put some soil in here already. It's already pretty moist, and we just want to go not too deep, probably about 2 inches down or more. That's actually more than 2 inches. Okay, so we're gonna cover it up, pat her on top, and yeah, we'll see if this little guy starts to grow. And this lettuce head right here was planted in the ground from scraps. It did still have its roots on it, so we just planted it straight in the ground. It has been picked over from what looks to be maybe rabbits or something, but so far it is showing some new growth in the middle, so it is doing pretty well. And over here, we have a really happy potato plant that is growing right here from a russet potato that was starting to sprout in our house. And so we actually just threw it in the ground whole and it worked. Usually you have to quarter them out if they're that large and put them in separately. But this one is doing great, and once the plant starts to yellow and die is when we know the potatoes are ready to harvest. So here we have some garlic that we planted from food scraps a few months ago, probably 3 months, and it's growing pretty well. Usually garlic needs to be planted late fall, right before the first frost. This guy was planted a little bit later and it's doing great. I got permission from the family to dig it up just to show you what it looks like, even if it's not ready yet. So we're gonna take a little look, see what happens after a few months of our garlic being in the soil, getting some sun. I'm just trying to get down to the roots. It's not a full bulb or anything yet, but it's cool to see how much it has changed since it was planted. Hey dude, this is not your garlic. And as you can see, it kind of looks like an onion bulb, doesn't it? Well, as this thing continues to grow, it will form the different garlic cloves that you know from garlic. It smells like garlic. So here's an example of an onion that was planted from scraps from my kitchen about 5 months ago. And as you can see, this is about maybe 3.5 feet to 4 feet tall now. And we're going to dig one of the bulbs up and see how it looks. So we're going to just kind of investigate, see how much has grown underneath with this guy. Let's see what 5 months of growth looks like. Just kind of digging around it so when I pull it out, we won't have as much breakage. You can already smell the very oniony smell. Wow. Okay, so you can see it has a lot of root growth in the last 5 months. And there's multiple stalks. And these are all small onion bulbs. If we left it in, it would have kept growing, but we just wanted to see how far this guy has gotten. I can see a little slug in there. Wow. And this was grown from kitchen scraps. So as you can see, there are a lot of different things from your kitchen that you can replant and be able to have more of it later. Why is this important? Well, it saves you money. It is a great way to get in touch with nature and learn about how life cycles work. And it also teaches you about sustainability and how it is important to be less wasteful when you can be. So composting is a great way to be less wasteful, but also replanting things that you get from the grocery store. Organic is always best if you want to make sure that it's going to grow, but even if you don't have organic food, it's really fun to experiment. Sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes what you plant doesn't end up growing, but that's okay. It's part of the fun, it's part of the experiment, and you know, it depends on where you live. Things some things don't always want to grow in some areas, but as long as you give it attention, you make sure it gets sunlight and water, you're doing the best you can, and we'd love to see what you can come up with on your own.